What lurks behind this unassuming storefronts in Cleveland, Ohio? It's the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. Learn the history of Wicca and the tale of those who brought it to the United States. See the tools of magic, once used by practitioners of the arcane arts. It's the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic.
So welcome back to the Buckland Museum Frankenstein Radio Control Room, which exists in this beautiful Cleveland, Ohio storefront just off of Broadview Road. So you may have heard we have reopened. We are very excited to share the collection with the world once again, but it's going to be casual for a while. We've set it up where you have to order tickets online at bucklandmuseum.org. We can only have 6 guests at a time. It's a scheduled tour now every hour and a half. Mask required for the near future. So today we're going to be hanging out with Ian Corrigan. And if you've been around any kind of Neopagan, metaphysical, occult circles in the Ohio area for, I don't know, last 30 years, I'm guessing, there's a good chance that you've run into this gentleman. He's got a deep history, but we want to focus on the Starwood Festival, of which he's heavily involved. This would have been the 40th year of Starwood, but due to COVID, this is Starwood 39.5. It's going to be a series of workshops and lectures streamed live via the internet. So Ian's here to talk about it. Go to starwoodfestival.com for any kind of information that you may need. But Ian, welcome so much to the virtual version here. Well,
thanks for having me in.
Yeah, so it's nice to see you here. Usually I see you out in the world, but how have you been spending your time here in your COVID lockdown?
Oh, I'm retired. I live in the country. The main difference is I don't have 3 meetings to attend live every weekend. That gets me out of the house. And instead, I've been attending 3 or 4 Zoom meetings a week. I live online like so many other people these days. I got my camera right here at my control command center at home, so I can talk to you. But as we said prior, it's a canceled summer. The first half of our year. May is often our busiest month here besides Starwood. Our A.D.F. stuff kind of comes to a boil. We run an event at our little sacred center here in Madison, Ohio. But that all got canceled this year. And so we've had a very quiet spring.
Yeah. So how long have you been involved with the A.D.F.?
Well, I actually attended the first workshop where Isaac ever talked about A.D.F. at a public event, which was ACE's Winter Star event way back, 84-ish. And then I hung around with Isaac at festivals. He put me on the board of directors of A.D.F. for a year in the 80s, but I was very busy and was ineffective and resigned pretty promptly. But remained involved, and it was really in 1991 that someone here in Cleveland that founded an A.D.F. Grove. I had always said to Isaac, if someone else did the shovel work, I'd show up and pitch in. I was still running a traditional coven at the time, or almost the time, about 91, my marriage and traditional coven of the period broke up, and so I found myself at loose ends and ended up working directly with the A.D.F. Grove. I had helped Isaac already with ritual design and mythography and other stuff, but that was what got me directly involved and actually got me to pay up and join the organization eventually instead of just hanging about.
Oh, well, very cool. So here we are. We're actually here to talk about Starwood. So I want to say, what was the first Starwood you attended?
Well, I attended the first Starwood.
All right, start there.
1981. Here, I told you I'd tell this story. I'll tell this story now. It's a story about, I'm sorry, I'm adjusting my hat. It's a story about really the founding of the festival movement as we understood it through the 80s and 90s. In 1978 or 9, I was working in a non-initiatory circle in Cleveland, in Shaker Heights. And we had started out as an outer court of Gardnerian coven, but we jumped ship, became involved with Selena Fox and Jim Allen. And one of our guys began attending a pagan camping festival in northern Indiana, organized out of Chicago, called the Pan Pagan Festival. And they've been at it a few years. I went then to Pan Pagan 78, which probably had 200 or 300 people at a camping event. And no, that's wrong. Friends of mine went in 78. I went in 79. And in 1980, everybody went. And by that I mean, here in Cleveland, many, 11 as I remember, members of our Chameleon Club who would go on to found Starwood went to Pan Pagan, but so did representatives of almost every regional branch of American neopaganism at that time, including, here, let me tick them off for you, Andres Corbin and the folks from Rites of Spring and Boston and the Earth Spirit Community, what is still going as, I believe, Earth Spirit Community in Boston, went. They were 2 years into running Rites of Spring as a picnic in the park in Boston at that point. So Andres and Deirdre went. The Chameleon Club out of Cleveland went. Jim Allen and Selena Fox out of Madison, Wisconsin were there. Lots of folks from New York City. Herman Slater from Magical Child, just really Gwydion Penderwin from the singer, the guy who cut the first pagan vinyl. Gwydion was there at Pan Pagan 80. California, the new Reformed Orthodox Order of the Golden Dawn, Aidan Kelly was there. So these are all names from pagan history prior to 1980. People know them. But it was a great time, 500 people. We had 500, we said to ourselves, well counted or not, that we had 500 people in circle that Saturday night, the biggest gathering of witches since we sunk the Armada, as the way we joked about it. And people went home from that event and essentially said, we can do this too. So Andres and Deirdre moved Rites of Spring out to the country and made it a camping festival. Jim Allen and Selena Fox founded the Pagan Spirit Gathering. Terry the Wizard from Bloomington, Indiana, founded the ELF, the Elf Lore Family, which ended up creating the Lothlorien Pagan Preserve and Land site that is still in business down in the Bloomington region. They were kind of vaguely forgotten, kind of like Bloomington is vaguely forgotten, but it's a cool area. And we began the Starwood Festival. So in 1981, all of those festivals were founded or had their first off to the woods and camp out together version of their event. So I was at Pan Pagan. I was at Starwood 1, which was held at Cooper's Lake Campground in Pennsylvania. Many of your audience are likely to know that as the site of the Pennsic War, the SCA's gigantic medieval fighting and arts gathering. And I mean gigantic, that's like 12 to 15,000 people. Canceled this year. So it was at Cooper's Lake, our first Starwood. We had a nice time. We had a good time. We were, Starwood was founded to be diverse, especially culturally diverse. I mean, we attract who we attract, but we were never strictly a Neopagan festival. We always included, our menu of ideas kind of comes from Robert Anton Wilson and Timothy Leary as much as from Aleister Crowley and Neopaganism. So we had that was well before Starwood. Oh no, what's the date on that? Is there a year date on that?
Let's see. It is October 6th, Friday. That's it.
But no year date. Well, see, that was typical of us in those days. But yes, Robert Anton Wilson and Timothy Leary both attended Starwood and became allies, if not friends, and kind of friends with Bob. I had the chance to sit in a bar and drink whiskey with Robert Anton Wilson more than once. That was pleasant.
Lucky you.
In fact, for people like me, for the people who've worked hard for Starwood for all these years, just to be clear, Starwood has never been a for-profit venture. Even when we were hosting 1,500 or 1,600 people back in the 90s when people had money, we were all of that revenue was being plowed back into program, and nobody ever took home bank on Starwood, and don't to this day, and won't in the future. I think we're about to actually found a not-for-profit to help keep Starwood running for future decades, begad.
Right.
But, so it'll remain a not-for-profit venture. I forget what made me go down that digression path, but we had 1 year at Cooper's Lake. They wrote us a very nice letter in which they told us, what was the turn of phrase? I like it. They told us they did not think they could offer us the freedom of expression that we seemed to need. I thought that was a great turn of phrase. Well, on the money, baby. If you don't want to offer that to us, we'll go somewhere else.
Right.
They're very polite about saying you're too weird for us. So we found, in the too weird department, we found the next year the Whispering Winds nudist camp it's down off of Route 77 by Janadenputten, for those of you who travel up and down 77 in Ohio. Not quite southeastern Ohio, but south of 70. And it was a 50s style nudist camp. Clothes forbidden, tennis shoes and a towel, the basic costume. So having them meet the hippie weirdos who want to take their shirts off when they want and under whatever circumstances they want, and throw themselves into hugs with each other, whether they're clothed or not, and otherwise have what we came to call clothing optional culture, was a shock for these 50s style, Hawkeye's volleyball magazine kind of nudists. And
right.
They liked our money and made an adjustment, and we kind of helped to coin the phrase clothing optional to help the nudists understand what was going on. And we were there for 5 or 6 years. That site fell into hard times financially, despite our money, and was sold out from under us. We spent 4 years wandering in the wilderness at different inadequate sites in Ohio until one of our attendees, Frank Barney, came to us and says, I got a farm, and we could have this on my farm. It'd be better than this, because the place that we were at was already too small for the event. We said, well, do you have a shower house? Do you have any facilities? And he came back and said, yeah, now I do. So we moved there in 1990, I'm pretty certain. It was our first Starwood at Brushwood, and we were there for 20 years. Through our biggest to date phase of Starwood, when, as I say, back in the middle 90s in the Clinton era, when people had money and weren't afraid to take their vacation time, the people came. And we were well placed. The Brushwood location gave us access to New England and upstate New York, and even New York City, and even Toronto and Ontario.
Yeah.
That we lost when we moved south. We're still trying to reach out to places like Asheville and Nashville, where they got hippies, and and the Eastern Seaboard. They were the big winners in the driving. It's like the new site is like 6 hours from DC. It's 5 hours, 6 hours from DC. It's really easy to get to from the Atlantic Seaboard. So we're still trying to attract folks, but we've been going in place at Wisteria for 10 years now.
It's a beautiful area. It's like one of the most beautiful regions around here.
My wife and I, several of us Starwood committee members are Ohio University alumni. So our sentimental attachment to Southeastern Ohio starts early. What does that mean? I can tell you witchcraft stories about old Athens, by which I mean Athens in the 70s, if you want.
Right. Well, Athens is based on a pentagram, right?
Say again.
There's a whole legend of Athens itself is laid out like a pentagram, right?
Yeah, that's false, but there are a number of cool sites. And being a university town there in the beautiful southeastern Ohio forest, I think it has just always attracted art weirdos and spiritual weirdos. There are a variety of those kind of sites around the area. And there's always been Wicca. There's been Wicca in Athens just about as long as there's been Wicca in North America. I know personally that there was Wicca in Athens in, let's say, 1971 or 2. And that ain't, that's the period of time when it's hard to tell. Like, I know this coven, and their book has Gardnerian elements, but they have no, they make no claims about connection to the Gardnerian lineage. That was that kind of time in American Wicca development. We're glad to move back to southeastern Ohio. Southeastern Ohio feels like home. Wisteria was founded by Starwood alumni who looked at Brushwood after being at Brushwood for 8 or 9 years. They said, well, we could do this too, and they pooled money and bought. Wisteria is on a reclaimed strip mine. According to the protocols, the new EPA protocols there in the 70s, strip mined areas had to be fixed and made back into forest. And so by the time these guys bought this 600-acre patch in the 90s, it had been fixed. And it was a beautiful bit of southeastern forest. There's some steep dells and cliffs down in it, but that's all they bought 600 acres. They immediately turned 300 or 400 acres of it into a nature preserve. And dedicated the rest to building a festival site. So they're still rolling.
So I want to say to anybody that's watching right now, please we'd love to have some questions go on. And can you tell us a bit about what's going on this year with Starwood, Ian?
Yes.
Because it's all virtual, right?
Yeah.
The cyber promised us.
In the we're just trying to be good citizens and canceling the event. And there's a lot of opportunities. It's in the woods, it's in the sun, but there's a lot of opportunities for people to huddle together at events like Starwood. Attempting Starwood with any kind of distancing. So we're doing it digitally, and we're attempting to do it Starwood style, which means go big or go home. Go big, then go home. Go big at home this year. So we will have, starting Tuesday, we will open Tuesday night, the 7th, with a kind of a version of our usual opening circle meditation. It's not going to be a ritual. We're not going to be standing in the sun, but people who've been to Starwood opening circles will recognize the content of the opening circle. We've got it pre-recorded in the Let's Learn to Use Windows Movie Maker as part of my digital education. And a concert, I believe, Tuesday night, Don't ask me to say who's who. You may have the schedule in front of you, but I do not at this time.
Yeah, so let's pull this up here.
There are music programs every lunchtime and every post dinner throughout Tuesday through Saturday. There we are. Well, that's the whole. Can you find the table? Doesn't matter. If you find the table, put the link up. There should be a tabular table somewhere. But don't. Who are we? See, there's each day we're going to open at 9:30. The chat room that we'll call Coffee at Camp, and that'll give everybody a chance to figure out their Zoom for the day and make sure things are working and say hello. And then at 11 o'clock, we begin workshops. Many times you will have between 2 and even 4 choices for spoken word workshops during our regular presentations. Starwood is always heavy with content, and we have attempted to do that even here. Each of our Zoom meeting workshops will have an independent monitor and co-host to help support our Zoom security and make sure that everything stays calm and pleasant in each of our Zoom meetings. And concerts are available to watch. We have folks who are going to work on making sure the music sounds decent. That's not terribly easy over Zoom, so we're going to make an effort. But we've got some interesting stuff. Saturday, we packed it all into Saturday. You know, if you haven't decided before, just pay $40 and come on Saturday. Any event on the internet, you can't get that content for $40 generally at any event on the internet. If you read in modern Neopagan, you know some of these names. Byron Ballard. You may not know Rustandi. Rustandi served as he's been on the board of the Ring of Troth, the Troth Infantry organization. He was, in fact, a doctor of folklore and mythology. So we're very glad to have Rustandi speaking. 12:30 on Saturday, that's me and my wife Liafal. We are Alan, and we will do our 1 hour or so musical set. I have sung at every Starwood, so if I don't sing John Barr recorded Starwood, people wouldn't know what was going on, so I have to do it. Oberon will be there on Saturday. We are very pleased to get Magnus McBride, Jeff McBride, out of Las Vegas to give us an hour or an hour and a half. Do you know who Jeff is, Steve? Jeff McBride? I don't. Well, magicians only get so famous, but Jeff's about as famous as a magician gets, short of having HBO specials or something. He's one of the world's leading stage magicians, teachers of magic. He's been on various kinds of TV. He was on Babylon 5. They wrote a role for him to appear on Babylon 5. There he is. And the cool thing about Jeff is that he's been a Neopagan and involved in the Neopagan community since the early 90s. I met him at a Rites of Spring at rehearsals for the big drum orchestra that we did that year. And he's just an amazing stage magician. And has spent his philosophical time corresponding stage magic and the work of stage magic with mysticism and the work of traditional ritual and magic. So his perspective.
That's 6 o'clock on Saturday.
And that's 6 o'clock on Saturday. He will produce objects out of thin air and talk about the healing power of magic. Both those things will happen, I predict. We're going to get the Bardo brothers back at Starwood. William Thorpe is now the mayor of the New York Fairy Fest, a pretty big quasi-pagan Delio in New York, but has been around Starwood off and on for 4 decades with various bands, the Bardo brothers, Billy Bardo, and Barry Bardo, and there's a list. So, and we're building, and the hippies are building the bonfire back in the meadow on my farm. Not quite even as we speak. They were doing it yesterday. They'll be doing it tomorrow. So Saturday night, as soon as it gets dark enough to look good, we will light a big old, not Starwood size quite, but a big old bonfire, then drum at it for a while, as long as my noise ordinances here in rural Ohio permit, or semi-rural, or on the edge. We're between the suburbs and farm country where I am. And there will be bonfire footage, and we will quite probably show old bonfire footage, maybe even through the week, but certainly Saturday night. We will probably continue. We'll probably continue available digital stream all night Saturday to God, and tune back in Sunday morning to the steaming remnant of our fire. So, like I say, Saturday alone is worth your $40, and Friday's just as good. There's several online rituals planned. ADF will do a ritual on Friday. Selena Fox was probably at the first 6 Starwoods before her summer got too complicated to spend a week in Ohio.
I wanted to ask you, do you remember the first time you met Selena?
Yeah. I remember that very clearly because I was involved in the group that made it happen. I don't know why. I think it's because I'm big and loud. I ended up involved in a lot of these. I just show up. That same non-initiatory circle that I was working in the late 70s that I mentioned.
So, is that like the Ed Fitch kind of? Was that like through the process that Ed Fitch was developing there?
We were, in fact, using the rituals in the Book of Pagan Rituals, which are Ed Fitch's words, as I understand, even though it's been attributed to probably 4 different people since I've been looking at it. But I understand here at this point that we understand that to be Ed Fitch's words. But yeah, we were working out of the Book of Pagan Rituals, and starting to write our own stuff, of course. But local esoteric bookstore began to advertise that Jim Allen and Selena Fox would be coming to Cleveland to talk about Wicca. Jim Allen and Selena Fox had just begun to appear as columnists in the Gnostica News newspaper that Llewellyn was putting out in the 70s, and at that point was being edited by Isaac Bonowitz. So Isaac made a point of beginning to include modern Neopagan content in Gnostica practically before Llewellyn had published any. And he located Selena Fox and Jim Allen, and they had been running a column in Gnostica. So that made them famous enough to have a bookstore want them. The bookstore set it up. They wanted $35 a ticket to see these guys there in 1977. That wasn't happening for many of us. And in fact, they had no takers. So they got up to the week of the event, and they were prepared to cancel. Now, one of us called them. Then I can't remember, it wasn't me, but one of us from the circle called them, and we worked out that if we could come up with a site and some gas money, they'd come anyway. Now, the Chameleon Club, that conspiracy that would eventually produce Starwood, was at that point a recognized student organization on Case Western Reserve campus. We had enough alumni and a couple of master's degree students still enrolled that we were able to be student organization and therefore get access to rooms. So I said, hey, I can get us a classroom And one of our circle members was working at the steel mill and had disposable income. He said, well, I'll pay their gas money. And so we brought Jim and Selena to Cleveland that first time and had a workshop in a plain old cement block classroom in a Case campus building, and went to one of the local witches' big living rooms to have a circle afterwards. And that was the first time I'd met Selena. And the Chameleon Club, which very soon after that became or created the commercial front ACE, the Association for Consciousness Exploration. But at that point, we were mostly operating as the Chameleon Club. Ran a series of Witchcraft seminars on Case campus with Jim and Selena. Jim and Selena would eventually break up, and she would get together with Dennis. He'll have to kill me later because I've forgotten his surname at this moment. It became Dennis and Selena, but in those days it was Jim and Selena. And that, there in the 70s, before that 1980 Pan Pagan 80 moment, brought Wiccans and witches and occultists from the region to Cleveland, and we would get 50 or 70 people at these workshops, including witchcraft folks from Toledo, Lady Aryanhod, and other names that, Toledo was a hotbed of witchcraft in those days.
I want to ask you about that. Have you ever heard of a guy named Herbert Sloan?
Only in the journalistic accounts of him. He was before anybody's time. He was before the time of anybody I ever knew.
So in the archives, we have these letters that he would write Ray that they're really something else. And I would love to meet somebody that met him, because it's just I have it in my head, but I'm sure there's a real person in there as well. So
right. He was before. He was like on the edge of Neopaganism. It was before Neopaganism really happened. So Satanism was sort of still an option, and he kind of went down the Satan road instead of the Horn God road.
Well, yeah, I should point out to the people viewing, listening, that Herbert Sloan was considered the first American Satanist. He claims that he formed his congregation, the First Lady of Endor, in 1948. He died in 1974, and really not a lot of information about him. But and I just love the fact that he's from Ohio.
Yeah. It was chronicled in 2 or 3 books that people like me were reading in the early 70s.
Yeah.
Is it Witchcraft, Witches USA? Is he and Susan Cooper? Hans Holzer, I think, wrote about him.
Yes.
And that's why people know about him, because he was weird enough to make journalistic accounts of the occult there in the 40s and 50s. But these Case to Western Reserve witchcraft gatherings in the 70s, I think, helped to form the kernel of that Ohio witch community that all knows each other and might turn up at the same events. Or now we know they're initiates. Now we know, there are people who were initiates of that Toledo scene who are now working in our Druid Grove, whatever. So, but early organizing efforts by ACE and the Chameleon Club, I think, helped to create the nucleus of a pagan community in Ohio, a cross-regional pagan community where, Ohio's a funny state. We've got 5 major media markets, which is unusual even for a medium-sized state, certainly for anything west of Pennsylvania. But that helped to get things going, and by the time we did Starwood 1 out here, there were people who were like, oh, an even bigger thing from these guys. So a lot of those people made up our attendance at the first Starwood. which was probably 150 people at Starwood.
So Starwood 39.5. What do you think is going to be different this year? But what do you think is going to be the same?
Different.
Right?
The bathrooms will be different.
Yeah.
One of the worst, I love Wisteria. I love almost everything about Wisteria. I don't love the fact that there is not a single flush toilet available to guests on the whole site. We're in the plastic booths all week down there.
Yeah.
And I won't miss that. But, of course, we will have to make do with virtual socializing. Starwood is so giant in terms of the program, 150, 170 workshops, daytime programs over the course of the week, etc., a few dozen musical events. In order to do it, it has to be menu driven. You select your day's content, or if you want a pagan event, you can certainly menu out a pagan event out of our content. If you want an alternative political event, you can get that. So it's kind of self-driven on a menu-based basis, and that's still going to be possible. Still going to be your mandatory option for V-Star. I've been abbreviating it to V-Star for Virtual Starwood. Less character, less keystrokes. And that's still true of V-Star. We're going to have 2 to 4 things cooking opposite each other throughout the daytime workshop program. So we'll have the option to choose, ethnic paganism or modern occultism, or we have some alternate politics. We have a fairly diverse option. Even in something that amuses some of us still, we have handicraft workshops. Our Starwood Creation Station has become popular over the last few years. Yeah. Been quite a number of handicraft workshops, all very popular. So we're going to have a stream of that going on. We will probably have a chat fire room going on more or less at all times. So if there's nothing else to do, you can come to the chat fire and hang around with whoever may be in there. We'll have a live set at my barn where we're establishing the control center for this whole deal.
Yeah, so I heard about this. This sounds pretty wild. So it's like, you guys have an underground bunker where you're going to have...
No, we don't have an underground bunker. We have an above-ground barn. There's nothing bunker-like about it at all, really. My wife and I keep 17 acres here in Lake County, east of Cleveland, and we have turned it into a small pagan event and temple site where our Druid Grove meets here 5 of the 8 high days. We have to rent. We still rent for the hard winter high days, but we're here Samhain through Belton through Samhain out here under the sky. And we have a temple in one, an outdoor temple in one corner, and we built an ancestor mound. It's not a bunker. You can't go in it, but it's actually got some burials now, or at least ash deposits. We got an ancestor shrine in another corner, and we got a big barn down in the old meadow, a medium-sized barn that we use for our potluck kitchen and picnic zone. It's actually on the grid. Everything in the north half, if you will, is solar and off the grid, but the hospitality barn is actually on the grid, so we have refrigerators and good night lighting and all of that. And so that's the facility. The ambitious thing is that we're running a fiber optic cable from my house the several hundred feet back to this barn in order to wire it up for Wi-Fi for V-Star.
Larry was here recently, and he was telling me about that.
Yeah, well, it's ambitious. We'll do it because we're mad. We'll succeed. I'm confident. Yep. And then my little barn will be a nice internet broadcasting point. I can do a lot more.
Cool. You can have a internet cafe. If we ever. Oh yeah, you can have an internet cafe if you know you.
But we can. But what we will have is our hearth room there in the barn is a semi-open space with a fireplace in the middle.
Yeah.
An iron patio fireplace kind of thing that's with the smoke piped out. So we'll have a fire going, and we will literally sit around in the morning around a fire. Whoever is out there, the folks who aren't busy running laptops in the other room, and shoot the shit and talk about the day's programs and answer questions. You know, people can come in and ask questions on the Zoom chat or whatever, and we can answer questions, make sure people understand how to operate virtual Starwood. Day one, we'll just keep repeating the briefing on your controls at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Right. And all of that, but eventually we can get down to just chatting. And that hangout room will tend to be open at all times. If there's nothing else going on, you can always look for a conversation at the hangout room, which is a lot like Starwood. See, that's like Starwood. There's nothing else going on. Find a camp, hang around, get a beer. So that will be a fun part of Starwood. We hope that we will run a vintage room as well. We have lots of hours of footage of lots of cool stuff, and some of it is deeply stored in computer cans somewhere, and we're trying to dig some of the more obscure stuff out. But we've got hours of stuff on DVDs that we sell, for that matter, and we'll probably play some of that. And there'll be a vintage room for past Starwood stuff as well. And that one I don't think that'll run all the time, but it will be a frequent option.
I'm definitely excited to check some of that out.
Yeah, we'll show some. I'm sure we'll show some Tim Leary and Robert Anton Wilson material,
which is, always fantastic. So I got to ask you, so we're here in a virtual version of the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. Now, you must have met Ray along the way, our founder. Yeah. Any fun Ray stories to tell us?
Well, I don't really have much in the way of fun Ray stories because Starwood's a big event, and we didn't tend to end up at the same camp over the years.
Right.
For no reason, just because there's a lot of people there. But we brought Ray. We discovered that Ray was living in Ohio,
right?
Sometime in the middle '80s. I don't even know how that. You may know. I don't know how he came to be living in Ohio. If I knew that, I don't remember.
It was I think it was kind of thing. He was out in California and needed a change, and he found out that he could buy a farm for a pretty decent amount of money in Ohio instead of like maybe a small condo in San Diego. And what's what he want to do? He wants to go someplace where you can see the seasons change, someplace where you can be out in nature, and Ohio is like the perfect spot.
Not a bad choice. Close enough to the East Coast to get there.
Yeah.
People say, "Oh, where should I move?" I always tend to recommend Ohio, and northeastern Ohio is even out of the Bible Belt.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
We're free creatures for the most part up here. But when we discovered that Ray lived in Ohio, and not very far from that Starwood site in Janottenhutton off of 77, we invited him. He came, and we met him at, I don't know what year his first Starwood was, but I would guess 86 or 87. And I think I am correct. If my memory, I believe I am correct in saying that he met Tara at probably that first Starwood. He met his wife, Tara Buckland.
I've heard.
that first Starwood.
Yeah, I've heard reports of that. So
That's my memory of how that went, but I've never confirmed it.
You know what? I've never really talked to Tara about that. Next time I talk to her, I'm going to be like, how did you meet Ray?
Right. That's a basic question.
Yeah.
And so he came to a few Starwoods, and I think it might have been already at a time when his attention was starting to move off of neopaganism and towards spiritualism.
Yeah.
But, you know, as we know, he went in the back portion of his life. So I could not. He basically stopped telling us yes. We kept inviting him, and he stopped telling us yes, so we didn't have him anymore. That's how that went. You know, some folks just never stopped telling us yes. He came every year that we would have them, but and Ray was already old when he started, and camping doesn't get any easier when you're old.
No, it doesn't. You know, I think that's why he liked going to Lloydale, because he could park his Corvette wherever the hell he wanted, and he,
get me and be comfortable.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing about camping. It's not always so easy, but
no. And the older you get, the more gear you have to have.
Yeah,
make yourself even vaguely comfortable for a few days in the woods.
Yeah,
we're in a pop-up camper. My wife and I these days are in a pop-up camper when we go, and we put up a big 20 by 20 pavilion, and it's not exactly glamping because it's not that glamorous, but it's comfortable.
I have a friend Craig that I always try to camp by when I go camping. To a festival I always go to, because with him it's like hanging out in his living room. So you know, very clampish.
That's how we are. It's like hanging out in our living room.
Yeah.
Just outdoors. We take our organizer privilege and get a plug at Wisteria. So we get electric lights and a little bit of electric, and we have a little fridge in the camper.
Oh, that's nice.
But
so,
anyway,
I want to. There's a couple things that I'm going to make sure that I'm checking out because for this year's Starwood, I just want to. What did I do? Let's see here. Add stream. So I gotta say that I'm really excited for Mike Ingalls remembering Sora Nima. Guests to the museum will know Nima. I talk about her quite a bit, and her connection to kind of my branch of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm
really excited your branch of all this stuff is.
We'll talk about it sometime. We're here to talk about you.
Yeah,
we're here to talk about the Starwood Festival right now.
Yeah,
and I want to say a shout out to Sadie Wolf Kitten, who is going to be giving a meditation on Thursday at 7. So Sadie comes here and meditates. She actually helps us turn the wheel of the year every 6 weeks. She comes here
regularly. Cool. She said she's been working with you.
Yeah. So you know, if you guys have a chance to check this out, please do. And then Denny Sargent and his Pan magic. I thought he was going to do his werewolf magic one, but I think Pan is something.
He appears to mean like pan cultural magic.
All right.
Pan's in it, but he intends, I think, to address some of his. You know how Denny is. He's world magic and the cross-cultural parallels of magic are part of his thing. And I think that's part of what he means by pan magic in this case. I don't know, to tell you the truth, only from reading the description.
Well, whatever it is,
I'm looking forward to meeting him even virtually. I was really looking forward to meeting him in person at Wisteria this year, but I look forward to meeting him virtually. I'm a fan of his book on the Nagas.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
I have a side interest in Tantra and Tantric ritual, which out there in internet land does not mean California sex yoga, but rather means Indian ritual magic, Indic ritual magic. And his book on Naga magic is a nice introduction to Indic ritual magic buried inside this more specific mythic topic.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, and he's definitely what I call a lifer. You know, he started off in New York City in the '70s, and here he is today out west. And so Vermin Supreme, of course, here. That's a no-brainer.
Came to Starwood last year, was immediate fan. He fit right in. We had a great time with Mr. Supreme last year, and so we're getting an hour program from him for V-Star. And then, of course, has been at Starwood for years.
Yeah. And then our close personal friend here at the museum, Mr. Ron and Pyrosonic. So, of course, we have a number of items of Oberon Zells that he so graciously donated us here to the museum. So it's going to be a fantastic event. I really can't wait, and it's going to I don't know. It's time for people to try something new, right?
Exactly, and you know, we always have tried to make Starwood a lot of value for your money, even when your money is a more serious amount. And I think that in this case, we're really offering bargain. And if so, we advise you to go to your backyard, get some lawn chairs, buy a fire pit. If you don't own a backyard fire pit, buy a fire pit, build a little. And as far as we can tell, Zoom doesn't want us to tell you to take your clothes off and be on screen in the Zoom meeting. So Zoom Starwood is not clothing optional as far as we know. I think we're going to have to keep ourselves generally clad, or at least.
So how much is a ticket, Ian?
Camera. What?
How much is a ticket?
$40.
All right.
40 American dollars.
And you can get it at starwoodfestival.com.
Starwoodfestival.com will take you, there should be a link right at the front that will take you to the Eventbrite page.
Okay.
Where you can pay your ticket and get your admission password. Starting Monday afternoon at Live Starwood, Monday afternoon was always we open registration and line everybody up, and everybody's got to get their ID and get checked in. We don't have to do that this time because you don't even get in the door unless you're paid. But Monday afternoon, we will have a pre-event chat fire.
Okay.
That people can check in, make sure their Zoom's working, make sure they understand how to operate their interface, and say hello to each other. And then Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, we'll begin with opening circle, and they'll essentially be for paid guests, for people getting in the front door. You will go to essentially a lobby page on the Eventbrite system. Okay. And that will have the day's schedule and all the Zoom meeting links. Okay. I'm sorry, I see. I'm at the point now where I will cite this outline at the drop of a hat. I've done it so often.
No, that's fantastic. It's wondering how this would work. So
if the program is in progress, the link will be live, and you can go in and take part. They'll all be Zoom meetings, so they're going to be interactive. Right now, it doesn't look like we'll have so many hundreds of people that will get unmanageable. But we will have careful management to make sure that we don't get Zoom bombed, or that if somebody's baby or parrot starts crying in the background, we can mute their little square. So we have a plan, and we should be able to run this smoothly and as if we knew what we were doing.
No, I gotta say that I'm really impressed that you guys were able to do this. Like that you didn't just say.
We haven't done it yet.
So, yeah, no, this is gonna be cool. Leary, back in the '90s, he was talking about the future of cyberspace.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it kind of veered off of that vision. And in a strange way, it's almost like COVID is like pushing those ideas back in there. And
well, there's a reaction too. You know, if you spend a lot of time online and then you want to get out in the woods around a fire.
yeah,
You know, this doesn't substitute. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it doesn't. You know, we're going to offer. That's why it's called virtual. Virtual means almost real.
yeah. So,
That's the best we can do, really, with a virtual Starwood. It'll be a lot like a real Starwood. And if we all hang around together and whatever.
yeah, no, I'm very impressed that you guys were able to put it together like this. And, I'm glad that you came on here to talk about it. So, yeah, you're going to have to come hang out in the museum sometime.
I absolutely will. I'm so sorry to have not made it there yet. You know, I live at the far end of Lake County
Yeah.
from you, so I'm a good hour plus from your location, and I just never get to that end of town casually, or I would have just, bumped my face in the store by now. But we'll make an arrangement and come see.
That sounds awesome. I got to come out to your place sometime as well. So
You absolutely should. You can keep track of our ADF Grove events at our Grove site, stonecreed.org,
okay.
or by finding Stone Creed Grove on Facebook.
Now you do something with the Spirit Apothecary.
Stone Creed Grove comes to Spirit Apothecary on the first Friday of the month, pandemic permitting. Which it hasn't lately, and we do a druidic blessing rite, which is kind of I call it a wishing bottle ritual. We invoke all the holy powers, and then we consecrate candles for intentions. It's our practical magic rite monthly for folks to come and bless candles for their needs and works. So that's the point of the monthly blessing rite. And we have been doing them online, even while we have not gathered at Spirit Apotheosis. I know. We have been doing those blessing rites online, first Friday of every month. And again, you can always find those links through the Stone Creed Grove A.D.F. Facebook page.
Yeah. You have to have one, right? So, Anne from Australia.
No, nothing. Go ahead.
No, I mean, it's, I always just think about Facebook as like something that we always have to use. I mean, we're streaming live on it right now, and it's like,
there's so much utility built into it.
Yeah,
it's pretty much as good as it claims to be.
So
communication.
We've been getting some comments here. Anne from Australia saying good day, Australian Anne. Now let's see, Gwendolyn Donaldson Blake. Hello from West Virginia. We are going virtual as well for Pagan Pride. All right.
PSG did it. A lot of festivals have done a virtual feed this year.
Yeah.
We believe that the hardware we're purchasing to do this is going to enable us to offer virtual content from the field at Witchcraft in the future. So if you can't camp anymore, or you're in Australia, and or in fact you were in Australia, and I don't know about the time shift, but this is a great opportunity for you to meet some American pagans if you want to sign up for virtual Starwood. What am I thinking about? What was I talking about? We're talking about.
You were talking about the technology and how you're going to probably start.
We want to be able to offer spoken word and music program off the main stage at Starwood. For $20 or $25, you can get 2 concerts, 2 workshops, and a concert a day from Live Starwood or some other. That's a total imaginary model in my head at this moment. It's something like that, and we'll be glad to collect money from all over the English-speaking world.
That sounds good. So Anne is saying that it's 10:30 a.m. there.
Morning there. Well, if you're working, that doesn't make it easy to attend workshops at that hour.
So that's one thing I'm bummed out about is I have to be here at the museum during virtual Starwood.
Two things about that.
What I need to is I might set up a screen, put it in the back there, and have it going. And if I'm not sitting there talking about the history of occultism, I can go over and check out what's going on.
Do it. So. We have no way to send the registration police around to make sure that everybody who is observing our feed has actually paid the $40.
Yeah, well,
we're not going to worry about it. And we'll put a screen in their backyard and have a dozen people sitting around the fire drinking at Starwood, at virtual Starwood. That's kind of the point of the exercise.
Yeah.
There will be frequent displays of our PayPal donation address, just in case anybody feels they haven't given us enough dough.
Yeah, that's good. I wish I had that when we started talking, because I would have been like, join me.
Well, they should go. They should register and come to the event. If they're thinking about giving us money right now, they should go register and come to the event.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Ian, do you want to hold on for a second? I'm going to say goodbye to the.
Right here.
And so I'll be right back here. Wow, that was awesome. I just wanted to say thanks for everybody that tuned in to find out about the virtual Starwood. And there's one message that I want to send to all of you. Stay witchy, my friends. All right, take care. And